Drive sober or get pulled over, resources for domestic violence survivors, and help for the homeless. This and more up next on this week's edition of Lexington Now. I'm Neil Noah, and this is Lexington Now. Lexington police are cracking down on impaired driving through the upcoming holiday weekend. Their message: drive sober or get pulled over.
We're in the Drive Sober or Get Pulled Over campaign, which actually happens annually, typically from about mid-August. It concludes at the end of Labor Day weekend. Last year in Kentucky, we had 3,900 alcohol-related crashes, and 121 people died because of alcohol-specific related crashes here in Kentucky. The drug numbers are a little bit harder to nail down, but those numbers would just increase that total. So, I mean, that's something that we're seeing all over the state and here in Lexington. We put out extra officers during this campaign that are specifically focused on impaired driving enforcement. There are certain clues and indicators that officers are trained to look for. Specifically, we see a lot of people having a hard time holding their lane, a lot of weaving. So you may get a car that crosses the fog line and then it crosses back over the yellow line and kind of just goes back and forth. They're having a hard time staying in their lane. We also have people that are either driving very slow, not really aware of the traffic around them, or sometimes driving very fast. And so it's common to get speed violations with impaired drivers. And then we also see people who they stop for stoplights and then maybe pass out and don't take off again. So we'll get a phone call of an unresponsive motorist that sometimes is an impaired driver. When the officer makes the stop, obviously they'll come up and they'll introduce themselves, ask the driver a few questions, mainly for their documentation, license, insurance, and registration. All while they're doing that, the officer is also observing for signs of impairment. So things that they're looking for is the smell of the odor of alcohol on or about the person or the vehicle. They're looking for bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, confusion, that kind of thing. If they see those things, they may ask the driver to exit the vehicle, and they may administer some what we call standard field sobriety tests. That's done roadside typically. There's other indicators of drug impairment or prescription pain medicine, those kind of things that people sometimes abuse. A lot of that is maybe like they're very lethargic, they're confused. Their eyes, their pupils either are very constricted or very dilated. They don't react to light the way that they should. Any chance that we get, we encourage people to make the right decision to not drive impaired. I mean, here in Lexington, we're fortunate to have a lot of opportunities, a lot of ride sharing, a lot of taxi services. There's just too many options available to get in a car and even take the chance. With Uber and Lyft and taxis and Lextran, and a lot of businesses offer a courtesy shuttle where if you've been drinking, they'll give you a ride home. There's just really no excuse. So we would encourage people to take advantage of those programs. Some people just don't realize how dangerous driving while driving impaired is. The Kentucky Office of Highway Safety slogan this year is, "If you feel different, you drive different," and that's true. So if you don't feel like yourself, you're not going to drive the way that you normally do. Drive safe this Labor Day weekend to enjoy the weekend, but do it in a very safe and responsible manner.
Lexington's Office for Domestic Violence Prevention has some new resources available. Stephanie Theakston fills us in.
The main task is to coordinate the Domestic Violence Prevention Board, which is representatives from all the agencies in town that serve victims of domestic violence.
Stephanie Theakston with Domestic Violence Prevention explains what her office does to facilitate victims of domestic and sexual violence getting the help they need.
There are lots of advocates in the community that are part of the board, that at the police department, at the county attorney's office, at Greenhouse 17, that will work with victims and help them safety plan. So if they are afraid, then the advocate will help them plan out different scenarios, that if this happens, then this is what I do. So safety planning is one of the best things survivors can do for themselves.
Stephanie tells us about some new resources that are now available to victims.
It's a reissue of a book that the board has done for many years, but we reformatted it, redesigned it, and put some updated information in it for survivors. It's input from all of the communities, or all of the services in town, criminal justice, again, social service, and it lays out the steps. There are basically 2 legal options that survivors have to protect themselves. So it lays out the steps for protective order in civil court, and then what they need to do to press criminal charges in criminal court. And then it lists the different services in town that they can seek out for specific to their experience of domestic violence.
And while her office doesn't provide direct services to victims, they do provide resources to advocates.
We have created a couple of different resources that advocates in the community can access. So we are, through a grant, are able to help provide housing stability for victims, helping them pay either the security deposit or a month's rent if they're lagging behind because of the abuse. They've had to miss work because of court or because of injury. And then we also have a program that allows victims to remain in their homes safely. So we provide security cameras, lock changes, window alarms, that sort of thing.
Stephanie says that her office is looking to expand their services to underserved segments of the community.
People with limited English proficiency, the LGBTQ community, people of color, immigrants, and refugees. So right now, while our newest handbook is only in English, we're currently having it translated into Spanish and hope to develop some resources in other languages soon, such as French, Swahili, Nepali, some of the most common languages spoken in Lexington.
When we come back, we'll tell you what Lexington is doing to help the homeless.
I'm Sergeant Randall Combs with the Lexington Police Traffic Unit. Accessible parking is a valuable and necessary resource for people with disabilities, and that includes the striped area next to accessible parking spots. These are access aisles, and it is illegal to park here, even if you have an accessible parking permit.
Access aisles are necessary for me to get into my vehicle. They are there because many of us need that space to use our ramps or to transfer into a wheelchair. It's frustrating when a car is parked in the access aisle because I don't have room to get into my van.
Police and Lex Park are writing tickets when they see vehicles parked in an access aisle, and the fine is $250. Know where and where not to park. Keep the access aisles clear. Thank you and drive safe.
Welcome back to the show. Lexington has been working tirelessly in recent years to help the less fortunate among us. Polly Ruddock talks about a couple of new initiatives.
You need to take care of your most vulnerable in order to be a great city. We're always ranked in the top 10 or top 5 for greatest places to live and best places to raise a family and low violence. And I think that just goes to show that this city understands, yes, you can build a great convention center, but you also need to have great social services and a well-oiled homeless system that can take care of folks. So meeting people where they are is big for us because you may not know where the services are. You may be too ashamed and embarrassed to go ask for those services. I get a lot of phone calls from my office that, they start off kind of timid and they really don't want to tell me and they really don't want to talk about, they're embarrassed. I lost my job. You know, we're living in the car with my family and my kids. We find that quite often. They don't want to tell the school system that they're living in the car. They're scared. So to be able to send folks out to them, to meet them in their car, to reassure them it's all going to be okay and we have resources for you, that's huge for this city, and we do that every single day. We do a needs assessment in our community all the time, but pretty seriously about every 5 years. And since the beginning of the time that we've been doing those, transportation and identification are always the top 2 barriers for housing. Securing housing, maintaining housing. If you think in the community how many times you use your ID to access anything, you show it to your doctor, you show it to get in buildings, you show it to get rental, do housing applications for rental property. So when you don't have an ID, you can't access any of that. So last week we launched a new program, a homeless ID assistance program. We developed a letter, and so now any individual that is currently homeless in Fayette County that is staying in one of our shelters or transitional housing programs can take that letter, get that from their caseworker, and go down and not have to worry about coming up with the finances or honestly looking any different when you're standing there to get an ID. So number 1 on any needs assessment is transportation. You and I can get in our cars at any time. We can go look for jobs, we can go look for apartments, we can go to our doctor's appointments. When you do not have transportation and you have no access to get that transportation, you can't do any of that. We started a partnership with Lextran. We prepay for a tap card for Lextran, and then that is issued out of my office, and that gives you access to any Lextran routes, buses, anytime. You can go anywhere in the city for 365 days. So one thing we didn't want to do is limit it to 30 days or 60 days. It takes that long to even start finding and securing housing or employment. In order to access this pass, you have to develop a housing plan. Where do you want to live? What area of Lexington? What are your barriers to securing housing? It's about an 8-page plan. Once we approve that plan, we issue a card. The easiest thing that people can do is call 211 or text their zip code to 211, and they can have a text conversation if they don't have minutes on their phone, which we have quite frequently. You can text, find a hotspot, text 211. They have access to a plethora of resources. They can take care of a lot of needs: food, shelter, assistance, child care assistance. They have access to all of that. The other thing they can do, and I always say, feel free to call my office, 258-3105, especially when it comes to housing or very difficult cases, or if you have a friend of a friend who's really embarrassed and doesn't want anybody to know, feel free to call. It's confidential. We don't share your information around, but we'll give you as many resources as we can.
From time to time, you may find yourself in the middle of a cleanup or construction project and need to dispose of trash or debris that regular pickup can't handle. That's where the Loan-A-Box program comes in.
My name is Lauren Monahan, and I work with Lexington's Division of Waste Management. We're here today to talk a little bit about our curbside collection program here in Lexington for those that receive regular city waste pickup each week. We all know here in Lexington that the green cart is for landfill-bound waste or your regular garbage. The blue cart is, of course, for recycling material, and the gray cart is for yard waste material. We also accept a wide variety of items such as mattresses, tires, and other bulky items like furniture or excess bagged waste at the curbside every single week for your disposal convenience. But a lot of people have questions when it comes to move-outs or home renovations or just spring cleaning in general when you expect to have a lot of excess waste to dispose of. Lexington Fayette Urban County Government is pleased to offer the Loan-A-Box program to Fayette County residents. This program is a great way to dispose of excess waste in an easy and convenient and affordable way. There's a variety of different materials that aren't necessarily picked up at the curbside through our regular curbside collection program. We accept construction, demolition material, small amounts of bricks and concrete, those materials that we do not regularly pick up. So this would be a great program to participate in if you do have those home renovation projects going on and have this type of material to dispose of. The Loan-A-Box program is available to not just those residents that receive residential weekly city waste pickup, but but also those within the urban service district that receive private city pickup. For more information on eligibility, availability, as well as making your reservation and confirming payment over the phone, you can call LexCall 311 and ask for the Loanabox program. You can also go to the website anytime at www.lexingtonky.gov/Loanabox. We encourage you to visit our website or call our office directly to find out more information, especially regarding the availability at the time of your call. Our customer service representatives will be happy to assist you in figuring out what will best fit your needs for your project. We also accept credit card payments now, which makes payment even easier. Please note that payments are needed in advance and that availability is limited, so please call as far in advance as possible.
We have another full slate of meetings on our televised schedule this week. Tuesday, there is a Budget, Finance, and Economic Development Committee meeting, followed by the Council work session. And on Thursday, we have an Ethics Commission confirmation hearing, the Quarterly Committee of the Whole, and the Council meeting. These meetings will be live on Channel 185 and on our live stream, and you can find any televised meeting archived at lexingtonky.gov/LexTV, or find our other programming here or on YouTube channel LexTV. That's all for this week. Keep up with us on social media and check out the latest traffic updates on Twitter at LexRex, or catch our live traffic cams on lexingtonky.gov. A reminder that all LFUCG offices will be closed on Monday, September 3rd in observance of the Labor Day holiday. For the staff and producers at LexTV, I'm Neil Noah, and that's it for now.